Alright, we're going to use the chalkboard today to go over these questions, but I'm about to collect them.
Mr. Kinney,
Still collecting them.
you erased my cross?
I had to. It's time to let students use it. Use that space.
What page do we use the cross?
Alright. So we are almost unanimous on the first question. One student said that negative 2 comma 3 is a solution to 2x minus 4y is equal to 7. All of the rest of the other 20 of us said false. What do we mean by a solution? It's not the answer to a problem. Don't you dare say that again.
Does it make it true?
Okay, it makes a mathematical statement true. Because I need you to understand, especially when there's two variables, do you know how many solutions there are when there are two variables involved?
A lot.
Not just a lot.
Infinitely
many. So you can't say the answer, right? If I ask if it's a solution, the thing I mean, and the thing we mean in mathematics is, does it make the equation or the inequality true? Okay? We got to know that. So I'm going to go over there in a second and talk about it. When it comes to the second question, I got interesting answers. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 answers out of 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, plus 8 is 23 students. Should I only have 6 answers out of 23?
for number 2 problem.
For number 2? No. Did you look at your notes from yesterday? No? So I expect us to be able to do something. Now, I will say, when I look at this, I have a few different answers that somewhat make sense, but what are the only 3 things that you should have on any answer to A equals 1/2 base height?
A.
You should have an A in there. What else?
B, H.
B and H and the 1/2 or something like that. I have a bunch of answers that aren't even close to that. I've got one with a 3 in there and a 5 and a 2, which I don't have it up there, but there's no 3, 5, or 2 given. All right, so we need to be careful about these things. We'll go over it in a second. Okay, got some good responses for the last one, huh? Because I didn't put them up there, I'm going to go them over here. All right, so can I grab your attention on the blackboard over here? So really quickly, I'm going to run through number 1, because we did pretty well on this one. 2 times negative 2 minus 4 times 3 is equal to 7. Is negative 4 minus 12 equal to 7?
Say it again.
Is negative 4 minus 12 equal to 7?
No.
No. So I said it is not a solution. Hey, Kaylin, the work's over here, but the stuff that I'm teaching. Thank you, sir. Okay. Now, what variable did I ask y'all to solve for in this one?
For
I don't know.
A. Find a different thingy for A.
Oh, I just asked you to create an equivalent equation, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay. There's 1,000 things you could do.
That's what I did. I divided by BH.
Okay, so could I divide by BH here?
And on the other side too.
Okay, so if I do it on one side, I have to do it on the other.
I didn't do that.
I mean, you didn't have to do that. Is that an option, though? What are we using here that is creating an equivalent?
Property of division of equality.
The division property of equality. As long as you use a property of equality, could you have created an equivalent equation?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, so let me ask this. Could I have done A plus 5 is equal to 1/2 base height plus 5?
Where'd you get 5 from?
Yeah, where did I get a 5 from?
You just pulled it out.
I made it up. Is this equivalent to what I started with, though?
No.
I mean, I added 5 on the left-hand side. Did I add it on the right-hand side?
Yes.
So did I use a property of equality?
But
Now, I'm not asking, is there a purpose to this equation? I'm just asking, is it equivalent?
yeah.
Did I use a property of equality?
I
So
guess.
is it equivalent? right? So what Kelsey looked at was using inverses with the properties of equality. But I mean, as long as I do that, it's fine. Let's say I have A equals 1/2 base times height. I mean, there's no reason to, but could I multiply by 4?
Yes. No.
Not just like that, as long as I multiply on the right-hand side. Is that a property of equality?
Yes.
So is it equivalent? This is important to notice. I am only asking you to create an equivalent equation, which means you need to use some property of equality. That's it. That's all you had to do. Okay? Now, are there any other properties that you can use to create equivalent equations? Like what? Okay, well, other than properties of equality, right? So these are parts of the properties of equality. Are there any other properties in general?
Yeah.
You could use distribution, which, is there an option for distribution here?
No.
Not really, but I could also use what? Commutative. Okay? So A equals 1/2 times height times base. See how I switched the base and the height around? That's a commutative property. Is that telling the same story as what I started with? Yes. All I asked was to create an equivalent equation. If I ask you for an equivalent equation, you're used to using the inverses, sure, that's good and all, but if I just ask for any equivalent equation, just use a property of equality. Use a commutative property. Use a distribution property or distributive property, right? There's lots of options there. We good with that idea?
Yes.
What? Okay. Yeah.
What's your question or frustration with it, Kelsey? You're a liar. What's the issue?
What is the C word you keep saying?
Commutative.
What is that?
So if you commute to work, that means you are traveling a great distance to get to work, right? I don't technically commute, I only take about 20 minutes. But there are some teachers in this school that live in Birmingham and drive all the way over here.
What?
So they are commuting from Birmingham to Tuscaloosa.
I've heard people living in Northport, not Birmingham, though.
I know people here who live in Birmingham.
What?
But when they get in trouble for that?
No?
That's on the
We lived in my mom's.
Oh, that's only for students.
Mississippi, we had to come all the way down here.
Your mom's office is in Mississippi?
Yeah, like, we lived in Mississippi and her school is at Oakdale, and so we did that for.
Like, it's totally fine. Like, it doesn't matter. Now, what I think you may be thinking about, Terrence,
College.
is where you go to school as a student, you have to live in this area. But you can live wherever and teach here. You just have to be willing to commute, to drive that distance. Right here, Kelsey, the B and the H are commuting, meaning that they are moving or trading places.
Oh.
Right? So think about it this way. 5 times 3. Is that the same thing as 3 times 5?
Yeah.
So the 3 and the 5 commuted. They switch places, but it stays the same. The
Okay.
same thing with 3 plus 5. Is that the same thing as 5 plus 3? See how they can commute and mean the same thing? We go with that idea?
Yeah.
Okay. Last one though, we had some good responses. So I don't remember what his name was. Do y'all?
Who?
For number 3, was it Frank?
Josh.
Josh. So Josh has 3.7 gallons in his car tank, and he's filling at 3.2 gallons per hour. And we want to know how long until he fills his 18-gallon tank, right?
6 minutes.
6 minutes. Did you work it out?
Or 5.6,
Something.
which is
But I'm really asking you to write a what? Not an expression,
Equation.
an equation. How could I write this equation?
You can do 3.
I put 3.7, was 3.2 H equals H.
So let's look at it. Actually, first off, was there anyone who wrote it differently? Kelsey, what'd you get?
3.2. Hold on, I forgot.
3.2 what?
Plus, wait, I did 18 divided by 3.2.
But I asked you to write an equation.
And then I put equals the answer.
But it's not just 18 divided by 3.2. Yes, Rose.
I did 3.7 plus
times 18. I'm starting to run out of room. Okay, so 3.2 or 3.7 plus 3.2 times 18.
You erased my crossing. You're not even using the area.
Well, the camera that I'm using right there is zoomed in on this section. So, I see the idea of multiplication happening. First off, I will say other people could have done it maybe as 3.2t or some other variable plus 3.7 is equal to 18. But no matter what we're looking at, I see people doing this multiplication. Meaning that what? Repeated addition. If you are going to include multiplication, there needs to be some kind of repeated addition, right? What is being repeatedly added?
Gallons.
You're adding gallons of
Gas.
gas for every minute, I think is what I made it, right?
Yep.
So we're repeatedly adding that 3.2.
Oh, my variable was M.
It was what? M? Minutes. I thought you said H for some reason. Okay, so 8, or M. There we go. So right here, Rose, are we adding 3.2 18 times? Remember, we're trying to get to that many gallons of gas. So that's an important thing to notice. That's a great idea though, because we are repeatedly adding. We just need to notice trying to get to 18 gallons. Do we even know how many times we're adding the 3.2? X amount of times, just meaning we don't know. Yes, ma'am? We have 3.2t plus 3.7 equals 18, or 3.7 plus 3.2m equals 18.
It is 3.7. What's the first one that you started with?
He started with 3.7 gallons in his gas tank.
I started with 3.7 plus 3.2x or n whatever. And then I did equals 18.
Yeah, so that's what you did. You did the same thing as Zaria said that as well. You just used a different variable. Okay? And that's fine. What I want to point out is, how many times is that 3.7 happening?
3.7.
Yeah, 3.7 gallons that he started with.
That's one.
That's only once, right? So nothing else is happening to it, but we're repeatedly adding that 3.2 an unknown number of times, which is why you get this left-hand side. And when is he going to stop filling his car? When he gets up to 18. So we want to know when all of this gas is equal to 18. I hope that you're paying attention to this because y'all have a quiz today.
Today.
Told y'all that yesterday.
You said next Wednesday.
You said next week, cuz.
That's a
No! Why would I give you a week and a half heads up?
To prepare.
I
So
don't
prepare.
Everything.
Y'all are not going to study for a week and a half. Y'all full of it.
I would.
You're a liar. You don't even do the work I asked you to do in class.
Man, say, bro, I got all the way to my best at.
Get it out.
Alright, I got you.
Uh-huh. What?
I was starting.
I told y'all that the quiz was going to be today.
Yes,
Yeah,
You didn't remind us.
Yeah, you didn't remind us.
I told you yesterday. What more of a reminder do you need? No, I don't have to email you when I tell you the day before. Yeah, what is tomorrow? That's all Thursday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, there's never going to be next week.
Yeah, you said
But
next
you said
Wednesday.
next week after break.
No.
That was you said.
I told y'all the test was next week, y'all. We're taking a quiz. Clean out your ears.
You said we ain't have
I told y'all the quiz was today. The test. Hey, y'all can keep arguing, but the quiz is today. I told y'all that yesterday. The test is next week. Okay? Here's what I need y'all to hear me clearly on. And I said it will either be next Thursday or it could be this Friday, one of the two. So,
So remind us on Monday or Tuesday?
You won't be here Monday or Tuesday.
Don't be reminded.
stop. It may be this Friday. Here's what I need y'all to hear me on very clearly. When it comes to a quiz grade is not your final grade in my class. Okay? A quiz is a checkup. But if everything that we learn on this quiz you do better on by the end of the unit, have you shown me that you understand those concepts better?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
If you learn it by the end of the unit, I'm going to honor that. So even if you make a 45 on today's quiz, if you show me on the test that you understand it to an 85, guess what your quiz grade becomes? An 85. I don't care when you learn it, I care that you learn it. So if you constantly are working for me and trying to grow and learn from your mistakes, you will always be okay in my class. Even if you didn't study, even though I told you yesterday that the quiz would be today, you will be okay. But I need you to work for me. Alright? So we got a little bit that we can learn. We're going to take about 25 to 30 minutes for the quiz. So that gives us, let's say 30 minutes out. We've got about 35 minutes to learn as much as we can before that quiz today. Alright? Ready to get to work?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So, all that being said, first off, we should probably pay attention when Mr. Kennedy tells us we have a quiz coming up. Okay? What I need y'all to go ahead and get out is lesson 8. I gave it to you yesterday, dude. So our agenda, right? Lessons 8 and hopefully 9 with a quiz to end the day. And so with lesson 8, given an equation, we want to be able to solve for a specified or particular variable, right? When the equation being more useful in that form, and we need to know the meaning of the phrase to solve for a variable, okay? I think we were on this number 3 yesterday when we ended class. Does that sound right? We had started to go over it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah? Okay? Because what we did is we looked at number 1, and I want to remind y'all of this. With this problem, okay? With this problem, we looked at it. There were some key words in number 1 yesterday. What was the key word for number 1 when we started working through all those volunteers? It told us to divide, right? And I told y'all to pay attention to your units because how many miles did we have? We had 2 miles. And then when we divided it over the 8 volunteers, that meant that it was a quarter of a mile per volunteer, right? And we did that for all of these, okay? And when we did that each time, and I'm not going to show all the work because we did it yesterday, we started to realize that there's a pattern here. The amount or the length of road section that they each had was what? What did we write down for number 2? The length of road section they each had was what?
You want the equation?
Yep, 2
Divided by n.
divided by n, right? Because we paid attention to the pattern that was happening here. 2 miles split over 10 volunteers. 2 miles split over 25 volunteers. So it's always 2 divided by n. And then we got down here to number 3. And I need y'all to hear me very clearly on this. You don't need to perfectly understand the math in order to work for me. You just need to think about things and try something, right? When it came to number 3, it said find the number of volunteers if each volunteer cleans up a section of the following lengths. Well, no matter what, how much road was there still going to be?
2 miles.
2 miles, right? And so remember, I had some people trying to do 2 times 0.4. What did that give us? Well, that was the 2 miles, and then people were doing 0.4, so that's 0.8. Is that a possibility?
No.
No. Why not?
You can't have 8 person.
You can't have 8/10 of a person. That person be dead, which would still be 0 people, right? So we just need to pay attention to what's happening. Okay, so that didn't work. I saw other people trying to do 0.4 divided by 2.
No, it's 2 divided by 0.
And when we do 2 divided by 0.4, again, notice, can you have 2/10 of a person? Nope. So then 2 divided by 0.4 gave us what? Well, is it possible to have 5 volunteers?
Yes.
Yeah, that number makes sense. Okay. Say again. So it's not technically a solution because we don't technically have an equation yet. We will have an equation in a second. Huh? Sort of solution, okay? But I talked about this with a few people yesterday. Does anyone remember how we could check to see if this 5 volunteers is correct? Rose. Okay, so one of the ways that Rose was thinking about it is if we do each volunteer has 0.4 miles per volunteer times the 5 volunteers, yes, we get up to that 2 miles of road. There's another way we could check it. Didn't we make an equation in number 2?
We did.
What's our input in number 2?
2 divided by n
2 divided by n is equal to
equals
L.
Oh, 2 divided by L is 8.
We can get there in a second. Well, I'm talking about number 2. To check to see that this 5 volunteers is correct. That 5, would that be my L or my N?
The 5 is the.
The 5 is the N. So L is equal to 2 divided by 5. Hey, what is 2 divided by 5? Just use a calculator. What is 2 divided by 5?
2.5.
Get the decimal version.
2.5.
It's not 2.5.
You said decimal version.
It's what?
0.25.
0.4. Hey, how much length are you supposed to have?
0.
Oh, 0.4. Right? So that answer makes sense. Okay? Say again.
the thing makes it, the statement true.
Yeah, notice, and so Zaria, here's where you could say, hey, my length is 0.4. 2 divided by my number of volunteers. Notice that makes the equation true. That could be a solution. Okay? So then what am I going to do here in B?
So you do 2
0.4 times 2 divided.
No, for B.
That's
2 over
what I did.
7. No, 2 divided by 2 over 7.
Oh.
2 divided by 2 sevenths. I want everybody to type in 2 divided by 2 sevenths in the calculator right now.
7.
It's 7.
What's up?
0.29.
0.29.
7.
I get a 7.
I got these.
So we got a couple different answers. Let's bring up the calculator and let's check it all together. I'm going to come back to this in a second. I need everyone to pay attention to this to understand how these calculators work. So, I need a calculator page. So 2 divided by 2 sevenths. Anybody put it in this way? 2 divided by 2 sevenths. When I hit enter, I get 0.1428. Is that possible?
I got something different when I put it in like that.
What'd you get?
1 over 7.
1/7?
1/7 convert that to.
So if I do 2 divided by 2 divided by 7, it is 1/7. I just got the decimal version of it originally. Is that a possibility?
No.
You can have a seventh of a human being?
Yes.
No.
You have some.
They can be chopped up.
Then they're dead. And I hope you don't have dead people cleaning up roads. That's a little creepy. I know we're getting up kind of close to Halloween, but it ain't that time yet, alright? So,
My birthday on Halloween.
cool. So does anyone know what mistake we made? Come on. Okay, I need y'all to remember, that is 2 divided by 2 sevenths. Look at the way this is actually on the calculator. Now, you see how the 2 divided by 2 is kind of together? That's not what I want together. I want the 2 sevenths together. What we're doing is we're dividing 2 by 2 sevenths, which I guess I don't have it written up there, but notice 2 divided by 2 sevenths. You see how I'm grouping my 2 sevenths together down there? Now, what do I get? 7.
Yeah,
Does
right.
7, hey, math, focus.
Mate.
I can do it too, good job.
Oh.
So, 7. Alright, got a 7 right here. Would 7 volunteers make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, if you substitute 7 in for n, what do I get?
2 7.
2 sevenths.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, right?
Yes.
So we want to notice this pattern here, and yes, we gotta learn how to use those calculators, but that's all it is so far. And so, okay? No, that's not what I want. There we go. So, we did 2 divided by 0.4. Then we did 2 divided by 2 sevenths.
I got 7 but I think I did it wrong.
Hey.
But I
Sorry. What's yours? Other ones?
Oh.
Thank you. All right. What were you saying those are in?
I got 7, but I don't think I did it right. I just,
Do you remember what you did?
yeah.
It's outside.
So 0.28, that's roughly 2 sevenths. So like if you do 2 sevenths as a decimal, that's close to what you would get. Yeah. Okay, so if I have 0.125 miles each, Matthew, I've heard a lot from you today. I appreciate your enthusiasm. I just
You
want to
said
get
you
other
had
people
0.5
involved.
miles each?
Huh?
0.5 miles each?
0.125 miles. What are we gonna do?
Did you say how many miles it gonna be?
Huh?
How many miles it gonna be?
Nope, we already know it's going to be 0.125 miles per volunteer. We know there's 2 miles total. So how many volunteers are there? Just 2 volunteers? 20 volunteers?
2.5.
2.5 volunteers.
No, 3 volunteers, cuz.
Okay, 3. Who thinks this would be 3
No,
volunteers?
it's 2.
It's 2?
Man, I don't know, man. I don't know, bro.
Okay. Have you been paying attention as we've gone over this?
Yes.
Because here we took the 2 and we divided by 0.4. Here we took 2 and we divided it by this 2 sevenths.
Alright, so 2 divided by 0.125.
Oh, look at that pattern. Look, you're learning math. Pay attention though to the pattern.
You talking to me like I'm slow, cuz.
No, I'm not talking to you like you're slow. I'm talking to you like you're not trying. I'm talking to you like you're intelligent, but you're not using that intelligence. That's the issue, that you can do it and you actively don't. So what is 2 divided by 0.125?
16.
16.
Yeah, I got that right there.
Okay. And then what are we going to do with this last one?
2.
No, I was gonna ask you a question.
What's up?
Answer me for me. When you do this set or quick, when you do this quick, can we do this?
No.
Man, say I'm already done it, cuz.
Huh?
It's gonna be the same question yourself?
No.
I can't drive it, or you might have to drive it.
I ain't trying to get my wheels.
Because I need you to use your brain.
I got short-term memory loss.
And you need to study more.
I just don't stay in my head, that's the thing.
You ain't Dory from Finding Nemo. Studying to learning.
Because I didn't stay in my head, that's why I'm
It can. You are giving up on yourself.
That's why I don't read, because it's stuff, I forget what the book be about.
No, you forget what the book be about because you don't read.
I do read.
Y'all, I need y'all to hear me very clearly on this. I don't care who you are. Everyone can get better at their critical thinking and at their memory. You have to make a conscious effort. Not saying it's going to be easy, but if you ever give up on yourself, then you have no shot of improving. Instead of saying, I can't do blank, I can't do it yet. The power of yet is huge. Instead of saying, I can't do this thing, I can't do it yet. You've got to put in the effort, you've got to put in the work. Alright? So, what are we finding out? How are we calculating the number of volunteers each time? This is going to go for number 4.
2 divided by 6 over 45.
Number 2, or n is equal to what?
2 divided by 6 over
Yeah,
45.
right?
Okay, you're looking at D. I'm just talking about number 4 in general. How are we calculating the number of volunteers every time? Alana?
2 divided by L.
Are we taking the length that each person has and doing 2 divided by that length?
Yeah.
2 divided by 0.4, 2 divided by 2 sevenths, 2 divided by 0.125. Okay? So here's what I want y'all to notice. Here's an equation for number 4. Here's an equation for number 2. Let's say that I had 6 volunteers show up. Well, I already know how many volunteers. What do I want to know? How many miles they're each going to clean up, right? So which equation should I use? The one from number 2 or the one from number 4?
Number 2.
No, number 4.
Number 2.
Raise your hand if you think number 2.
Wait, what?
Um,
Hold on, I wasn't paying attention.
Okay, so we're going to go back over this. I need y'all to pay attention to this question. I've got 6 volunteers. I want to know how much each volunteer is going to clean up. So should I use the equation from number 2 or the equation from number 4?
Number 2.
Number 4.
Raise your hand if you think it's number 2. Number 4?
Y'all number 4, Ken?
Let's check it. Where would the 6 be substituted in?
For the volunteers.
For
I mean,
N.
volunteers.
So it's going to be volunteer, so it's going to be N for the N, right? So if I do it for number 4, what I get is 6 is equal to 2 divided by L. If I do it for number 2, I get L is equal to 2 divided by 6. Which one's easier?
Number 2.
4.
Number 4.
Number 2.
You're gonna get a negative number. Yeah. I mean,
Done.
Oh,
That's all I have to do, right?
What?
What do you mean?
I
What?
don't understand it, cuz.
What do you not understand?
How did you get there?
What?
How did
How'd I get what?
How you get there, man?
Like,
Asking you.
clip that thing in half.
What are you talking about? N is equal to 2 divided by L. L is equal to 2 divided by N.
Listening. Listening.
oh, I got it now. I got it now.
2,
Yes.
if you put 2 divided by 6 in that calculator,
I know what it is.
type 2 divided by 6 in that calculator, then why are you asking? Okay, I need everyone's eyes up here. Legitimately, so Kelsey, we need to understand this. When I use this equation, do I have to solve it or do I just simplify? Hey,
Simplify.
I can just simplify. Remember, what I said was that I had 6 volunteers. What did I want to know?
How many
people?
How many miles they each cleaned up. So that needed to be my output. N needed to be my input.
So can you also do for number 4? Can you also solve it for number 4?
Yeah, we'll come back to that in a second. Really quickly, let's say that each volunteer has 0.5 miles per volunteer. Which equation do I now want to use? Number 2 or number 4?
Number 2.
Number 2. 4.
Man, we are still split. All right. Hold on. Look. Number 4 said N is equal to 2 divided by L.
Oh.
Number 2 said L is equal to 2 divided by N.
Quattro.
What?
What?
Is that the number of volunteers or is that the length they each have to clean up? That's the length. What do I want to know? The number of volunteers.
So quattro.
See how that's telling me the number of volunteers? So,
You won't go.
I got the wrong one. You got the wrong one?
hey, y'all, eyes up here, pay attention, try to learn something.
I realize.
Alright, so this is why it's important to recognize which variables